Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The DIG. I'm very pleased to have a returning guest, Andy Reynolds, founder of Inspire Resources, where he is currently co-leading an innovation challenge with Oz Minerals in a theme called adaptable and scalable mining. What does that mean? You'll find out soon enough. But first, I want to throw it over to our producer, Brian Boland, who will talk to us about our 6 and 60 coming up right now.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And now let's get to it. Rapid development of mines is urgently needed as the feds call for the need to fast-track more Canadian mining projects. Still on strike, but Glencore's Raglan nickel mine in Quebec has resumed some operations while negotiations with the union continue. President and CEO Tom Palmer of Newmont said the gold sector needs to consolidate to meet net zero challenges and exploit increasingly challenging mineral finds. Some of the biggest mining companies are divesting their coal operations and offloading to new owners. But will this actually reduce overall carbon emissions? Colombia has elected a new president, and some in mining will be watching closely for anticipated tax increases. And finally, MSTA Canada has signed a memorandum of understanding with Ostmine to continue collaboration between the two organizations. And that is your 6 and 60. Now let's send it over to Ryan with his exclusive interview with Andy Reynolds.
Hi, Andy. Welcome back to The DIG.
Thanks, Ryan. It's good to be with you again.
Yeah. So what have you been working on? I've seen a little bit of news flow through social media channels there. And can you describe a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've got this really interesting project going on with Oz Minerals, which is an innovation challenge that we are co-leading with them to investigate scalable and adaptable mining.
Scalable and adaptable. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so there's the idea is there's a lot more volatility and uncertainty in mining these days, but really the focus on responding to that is on building larger projects that reduce cost in order to create a sort of a buffer around the operation. But we think that there may be better ways of managing risk through flexibility that are being overlooked in this model, especially if you're a mid-tier copper miner like Oz Minerals.
So, you're kind of dealing with the unexpected, and that's where that flexibility is required, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you imagine, for instance, say a mill that is just as efficient at half load as it is at full load. Or imagine a flotation plant that automatically adjusts to the mineralogy of the feed. Or an underground conveyor network that is really easy to reconfigure. These are examples of flexibility that could help deal with some of the uncertainty of the mining business. Right.
And so kind of where are we at with that? Like, it sounds like we need to have a little bit more innovation in this space.
Yeah, that's true. We need equipment that is designed for flexibility, and it's really interesting when you talk to equipment suppliers and ask them about how flexible is your equipment. Customers don't really ask for that, and so it's not even particularly easy for them to measure it. But we have to recognize that flexibility is also really it's a system attribute, and you have to choose the right system architecture for flexibility to really unlock the benefits of this.
Okay, let's go down that path a little bit. What do you mean by system architecture?
It might be easiest here to imagine a modular system, because modularity and flexibility kind of go hand in hand. And in a system like that, the system architecture is really the scheme of the modules. It's the arrangement of modules. It's the interfaces between them. And defining that system architecture really governs how the whole system is going to come into existence and be operated during its life.
Right. So you're kind of taking modularity to another level. It's kind of a little more intense, if I can.
Yeah. Most people in mining, I think, are familiar with off-site manufacture as being the reason why you would want modular equipment, and for sure that's beneficial. You can control quality in a factory environment, but really, if you manage the whole system architecture well, then it becomes much easier to solve problems by changing the system, changing the modules. You can make change much more easily.
Right. So you're kind of like talking almost kind of like a plug and play approach? Or?
Yeah, to some extent. We're familiar with this. I mean, most of us own computers, and when we buy a device to plug into a computer, we expect it to work. And that's because the standards have been managed very carefully. So the supplier of my USB device hasn't had to test that device with my specific computer. That would be unmanageable. So if we apply this kind of thinking to mining, then we could potentially assemble a system much faster. We can reconfigure it more easily. We can adapt to operational issues. And make changes really by experimenting with modules at low cost and low risk.
Right. So tell me how, let's go back to this relationship with Oz Minerals and kind of this challenge that you're doing with them. What's that about?
Oz Minerals has this terrific innovation group. It's an incubator called Think and Act Differently, or TAD for short. And we got talking to them a few years ago. And started swapping ideas. And eventually they asked us to work with them to help define scalable and adaptable mining, because it's a strategic aspiration for the company that they wanted to bring some innovation to. So we did a bit of a deep dive on that. And as a result of that, they asked us to help them run an innovation challenge, because there were really two things that they needed to do. One was to seek out innovative companies to form a collaborative ecosystem. And the other was to develop a modeling and simulation capability that would provide almost a playground, really, to pull these ideas together and see where the value would be related to flexibility.
Right, and it starts with the conversation and actually taking that initiative to get people at the table. So, how's the response from the supply chain or the suppliers been?
Really good. Oz Minerals have a partnership with a group out of Perth, Australia, called Unearthed, which runs these sort of global crowdsource innovation challenges. And so we published an innovation challenge to the crowd, had really hundreds of people interested in that from, I think it was 33 countries altogether, lots of people with ideas. We shortlisted those, and we interviewed a lot of the proponents, and then we selected 7 companies to be a part of this challenge cohort. And those were companies with good technical ideas. What's really important is that they only got in if they demonstrated a commitment to collaboration, a commitment to working together as part of this group. And I'm pleased to say that there were actually 2 Canadian companies among the 7 companies. So that's Sepro Systems and Nova Mira. And they've been great participants in this challenge.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah, Nova Mira is definitely, we've, as a member of ours, pretty excited what they have as a value proposition to, not to beleaguer that word, disrupt mining. But what has this challenge achieved so far?
Well, it's been a great journey. So we started about 9 months ago, and Oz Minerals gave us all of the data related to a satellite ore body, satellite of Prominent Hill, which is almost fully mined out now. So they've got really good data on it. And what we did is we pulled together these 7 companies, and between us, we ran a kind of a concept study, and we co-developed a simulation of a highly flexible underground mine and process plant, and in order to subject it to disturbances and try and uncover the value of flexibility, ideally in financial terms, because it can be valued.
Right. So what does this flexibility look like in design? Like in the
design? Yeah, so it's the ore body that they gave us is a small one. So it's a small scale project, and we, although it's a satellite deposit, we imagined it as a standalone remote project. So it's about 12 million tons of copper ore, and we put together a concept that would run at about 1,000 tons a day. And from the outset, we really wanted to run it only on solar power. We were imagining a remote location, small project. You wouldn't build a transmission line out to that. So what we did was we built a model in which electricity is the bottleneck, which is kind of a novel approach, and it forces us to build algorithms that dispatch load on and off according to available electricity. We made the the underground mine self-sequencing so that we could control the scale of the operation simply by adding and removing equipment. So we were able to model scalability as well. There's some novelty in the equipment that we've assumed as part of this model. So, for instance, underground, it's all mechanical cutting. There's no blasting. It's all electric. There's no diesel combustion. The mill is quite novel. It's a proprietary once-through design, so almost no residence time. And then the flotation plant is based on Jameson cells, and we've got quite significant experience in operating those in the cohort among the team of Sedgman. And so we've got various flexible equipment pulled together in this, but almost all of the technology is actually quite well proven, at least at some scale.
Right. So that's actually a fascinating to see it actually being applied to a real life asset. And I think it's just prudent that you do it at, that they're picking a satellite deposit. I'm a believer in new things. You start small, you grow fast, so to speak, and you learn from that. So what are some of those key learnings that you're picking up here?
We really focused on two sort of flexibility challenges, two aspects of flexibility. One was this running entirely on renewables, and the other was the scalability question. And on renewables, what we did was we said, how continuous does the operation need to be? Where does the peak NPV occur as you add more storage? And what we found was that you get the best NPV before you reach 24/7 operation. And so that was quite interesting, that it actually makes more economic sense to shut down overnight than to deploy enough energy storage to run through the night. It varies through the seasons. So in the summer, you get continuous operation. In the winter, you get quite long shutdown periods. But the point is that there's a trade-off here between flexibility and energy storage. And 24/7 operation isn't necessarily the best way to operate. And we couldn't really have uncovered that without doing simulation. And then on scaling, what we found with scaling is that it's a bit difficult to uncover the value of flexibility in a short life asset for equipment scaling. If you imagine that you double the fleet halfway through an 8-year mine life, getting a return on that investment is really hard. But what we did find is that with these flexible architectures, you can have a wider range of mine lives with less variation of value. So in a sense, what we're doing is creating more choice and more resilience. So if you could have the same project with, say, an 8-year mine life or a 16-year mine life with very similar NPVs, maybe that's our chance to go to the other stakeholders and say, well, what are your preferences? What is the bigger picture here that we need to meet beyond just NPV? It's very difficult to offer that choice if you've only got one project, one plan that's valuable.
Right. Well, and you're really trying to break down some barriers in the dogma, because, it's traditional that an asset gets up and running at its peak modeled MPV, and then it's grow it and expand, and it gets fixed. And all of a sudden you've grown this thing to a point where you have no point to, or there's no optionality to go back. And so you're really breaking down some barriers here in how we design operations, and to show and to see that it's actually doable, and the learnings you're having are pretty impressive. And, you bring up that you expand in MPV from 8 to 16. It's like, well, who wants to do that with the similar MPV? And it's like, well, the communities might want to have jobs for 16 years as opposed to 8. So it all comes down to stakeholders and what's important there. And really exciting experiments that you're doing. So where do you take this? Where what are the next steps here?
There's a couple of things that come out of this. One is really the importance of collaboration. So this cohort of companies have worked together on this design, and they have really enjoyed, to the extent that they've been showing up for free. They have just enjoyed all sitting together and looking at the whole problem through a systems lens and working together and understanding how the parts of the system interact. There's real merit in taking that forward, in establishing more of more of a platform for co-design to enable faster participation there. So that's really encouraging. And I suspect we'll be moving into more detailed studies of more flexible value chains in order to bring more definition to this, because the error bars around this is still quite large. We've got a great simulation capability. It's running in the cloud on AWS. We can do 10,000 mine life simulations overnight. It's tremendous capability that we now need to formalize and reduce the error bars and actually move towards a new kind of model-based co-design process for mining.
So you've kind of broken down the hardest part, which is kind of almost those first several steps of saying, hey, this is real, this has potential. So are you seeing, or are you expecting kind of this to get momentum and see others participating?
This is the really encouraging thing about the participation of these companies in the cohort. There's an appetite for this, and if we can turn this into a value proposition for them, companies need to make money out of this, and if we can turn that into a value proposition and make it normal for an ecosystem of companies to co-design the whole system, then I think that unlocks tremendous potential. It makes innovation move much faster. And enables mining to play its role in global decarbonization and solving problems faster. We've got a real sense of urgency around those global issues that I don't think the current mine design process is fit for purpose in solving. It's just too slow.
Right.
So there's a lot we can do to make it go faster through closer collaboration. It's really digitalization that makes that possible. It's the emergence of digital design tools and platforms that will enable us to collaborate much faster.
Right. So if I turn that lens from the industry and how we're changing, how we have to decarbonize the world and all that, and just kind of turn it a little more, how about Inspire Resources? What does this mean to you?
Well, we've been so fortunate to find a partner in Oz Minerals that has intersecting needs with us. Our mission is to deploy a new business model that puts the local community at the heart of the project governance domain, and we've always known that would require us to transform the mine design process so that it would create a lot more options with a lot more criteria for a lot more people to choose. And so we've been very much on parallel paths here. But this is kind of fundamental to Inspire Resources, that we can deploy this kind of platform approach to bringing industrial partners into co-design problems. We need to get into the mass customization business where we can roll out repeatable designs for small, short-life mines that are highly automated with the same industrial partners in industrial alliances that can make that happen in a highly trustworthy and purpose-driven way. So we've got a lot of work to do, but the design process transformation has been a key plank in that, alongside the other work that we need to do on things like financial on-ramps for communities, approach to regulators, finding pathfinder jurisdictions, who want to go down the social experiments that need to take place to learn how to engage communities more meaningfully in project governance. Got a lot of work to do. This is a really key part of it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, this is a fascinating journey you're on, and it's exciting to hear that where you're at, and it's moving forward and taking a vision and getting it from concept design, and now you're just taking it even further. So to make this a reality. So pretty exciting. Definitely have to get you back on at some point to check in and see where this is all about and where we're at, and hopefully sooner than later. So thanks again very much for being on the dig. Appreciate it, Andy.
You're welcome, Ryan, and I look forward to bringing you some updates in not too long.
Excellent. That's it for this episode. I'd like to thank Andy Reynolds from Inspire Resources for being our guest today, and Brian Boland, our producer, for doing our 6 and 60. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn and also on Twitter at Mining Suppliers. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get all the updated episodes of The Dig. Until next time, I'm Ryan McEachern. Take care and stay safe.